Bismillah, alhamdulillah, wa salatu wa salamu ala rasulillah, wa ala alihi wa ashabihi, wa man tamassaka bihadihi ila yawm ad-din. Amma ba'd. I believe tonight is going to be the night for the questions, if there are any, inshallah ta'ala. Abdul Wadud.
Explanation of the woman being raped. Can you explain that?
Question says, explanation of a woman or women being the bent rib, or coming from the bent rib. Could you explain that? Unfortunately, we have to make disclaimers in 2018. But as we said before, Islam, the Quran, the Sunnah, they were not meant to be twisted and warped to people's feelings and opinions and movements and cultures. Rather, the opposite is supposed to twist and bend and be warped to fit into the mold and the cast of the Kitab and the Sunnah. The general rules and the specific pieces of legislation. Pay attention to the words. General rules and the specific pieces of what? Of legislation. A general rule, a man is not supposed to imitate a woman. A woman is not supposed to imitate a man. That's a general Islamic principle that's supported by many texts from Quran and Sunnah. That's supported by common sense. That's supported by upright culture. And there are also specific pieces of legislation, such as a man is not allowed to wear solid gold. A man is not allowed to wear pure silk. Everybody clear on this? And from that is the concept of imitation, etc. And we explained this in a khutbah on the Easter offensive. The Easter offensive. The hadith of Abdullah ibn Abbas and Sahih Bukhari regarding this. About being feminine. If you can naturally help it or can't help it, etc. Right. So that's first and foremost. So when it comes to a woman coming from the bent rib or the crooked rib, then there are two main understandings of this hadith, which aren't in the contrary or opposition to each other. The first is that Allah Azza wa Jalla created Hawa from Adam. He created Hawa from Adam for the purpose of there being more love, for there being more romance, for there being more affection and sympathy and closeness between the two. That He created Adam alayhi salam, and He made for Adam his spouse from his rib. And the rib being the most what? Intimate what? Part of you. Tight. That's first and foremost, in brief, with a lack of time. Secondly is the concept of certain characteristics that women have as a sex, as a gender, characteristics and things that they're created and made with and upon, that in most cases are not going to change. That in most cases aren't going to change. Not every single woman, because women, they differ. There's some women that are very objective, very strategic, very wise, very emotionally intelligent. And there are many men who are very emotional, very impulsive, and lack emotional intelligence. And they speak impulsively and they don't think rationally. But the general concept of the sex as a whole is that men think like this, behave like this, act like that, and women, the exact opposite. Venus, Mars, or whatever they say. Everybody understand this? This is a reality. This is a reality. Everybody clear this or not? And the child knows this. From the intelligence of the child knows what to get from Abby, he can't get from Omi. What to get from Omi that he can't what? Get from Abby. And how to ask Abby and how to ask when the child realizes this. So there's certain things that a woman is created with and upon, in which most cases she won't change. She'll bend a little bit, adjust it, taper it a bit, but in most cases you try to straighten the rib, it will what? Snap, not break. It'll snap. And there's certain things that a woman is always going to do as a whole. Whether that is the concept of forgetting good treatment of her husband, whether that is sarcasm, smart mouth, a long tongue. Everybody understand this? Whether that is demanding more time or whatever it may be. Whatever it may be. People who are married, they know these things in general. We don't go into deeper with the amount of time that we have right now. Hopefully that's more than clear. Fadl ala. Fadl. A'la Allahu dhikrak. Ameen.
I was going to ask, what if one intentionally misses salah, and then obviously he regrets it, but whether that's like later on the day, that seems intentionally. and not by accident. He didn't forget all that stuff. He knew, and he knows the consequences of missed salah. He knows the punishment. He knows the hadiths of how it's what's it called, the difference between a believer and non-believer, and the different account on that. And then he regrets it, and then he comes back. And then whether it's that same day, that later week, even next year. What is the ruling on that? Does he leave all the time?
Someone who intentionally leaves off the prayer. Intentionally leaves off the prayer. We've explained this on Mufti Q&A with regards to the ruling of one who doesn't pray. Whether he doesn't pray at all, he prays very seldomly, or whether he misses one salah intentionally. Many ulama, they say that even if we take the view that not offering salah is kufr akbar, major kufr, and not kufr asghar, kufr amali, any act of disobedience being a type of kufr, but major kufr. Many of them, they say that what's meant by leaving off the prayer and it becoming major kufr is not praying at all, bil kulliyah, aw fi aghlab al awqat, in most cases. And there's some of the ulama, small number of them, who say rather if you miss one prayer intentionally without an excuse, faqad kafarta, you've made kufr, waliyadu billah, that being kufr akbar according to them. So therefore we're not getting into the view of the ulama who say that it isn't kufr akbar. That's on the side. We're dealing with those ulama who say that it's kufr akbar, and they themselves have held on two groups among them. Some of them say what's meant by not praying, tarku salah, is what? Not praying at all. A month, 2-3 months go by, a person didn't make salah. He's left off the prayer. And then some of them, the second, the fork in the road, they say, are those who say that it can be one salah. So it's extremely dangerous. Extremely dangerous. Why would you leave your Islam in the hands of someone? With regards to janazah, you getting married, people giving you salams, your blood and wealth and your honor being open game. So it's a very dangerous issue. So what's important is many of the ulama, they hold this view. Some of them, they hold this view. And some of them, they say that once you come back to Islam and you make repentance, there's no point in making that salah again. Shaykh ibn Uthaymeen, rahimahullah, and others, they say there's no point in making a salah up again. It's gone, Allah will never accept it. Man amila amalan laysa alayhi amruna fahuwa rad. That's in brief. You can go back to Mufti Q&A, in which we have explained the issue with more detail. The issue of those who do not pray. Are they kuffar or not? And what are the consequences and repercussions? What are the rulings that now happen or take place because someone being deemed a kafir for not praying or not? Wallahu alam. Fadl akhi.
So I'm back and forth between here and Morocco, and I'm praying behind an imam there. For some reason, after usually during every salah, but mainly during Fajr, after the second rak'ah, it's a long pause, and I can hear the imam saying something in the mic. I can hear people basically saying something during his pause. So I know it's heavy on the neck, and I don't know. That's not that one.
Question says, with regards to me traveling back and forth from America to Morocco, and I noticed in Salat al-Fajr, there's a pause that the Imam makes, and he's saying something to himself, and people behind him are also saying things to themselves. What are they saying? Is it from the Maliki madhab, etc.? When do they make this pause? After the second rak'ah. So after the surah was recited, coming up from ruku', maybe they're making qunut. Maybe they're making qunut, in which they're doing it silently. Some of the ulama, they hold the view that you make qunut in Salat al-Fajr all of the time. Many of the ulama, they hold this view. Whether it be the Hanafis or others, they say that you should make qunut after each and every and Fajr all the time. That's the view of some of the people of knowledge. Perhaps that's what they're doing. Why aren't they saying it out loud together? I don't know. But perhaps that's what they're doing. That's the view of many of the ulama. That's not saying it's the correct view. It's a strong view. And it's based off something authentic. But it is the view of many ulama of Ahl-Sunnah. Wallahu alam. From online?
AA from London, UK. Assalamu alaikum. Your advice for the one who suffers from anxiety in relation to marriage. They are in their 20s and they feel as if they lack common sense. However, they fear the fitna and want to get married. Also, if someone is looking for a wife and they want them to wear niqab, do you think they are limiting their options? Jazakallahu khair.
May Allah bless you. If you have enough ability to ask a question and to seek advice, then that's some common sense that you clearly have. And oftentimes, as a wise man once said, Omar, he says that common sense is a genius and we're clothes. Common sense is a genius and what? And a coverall, an overall. That's genius, but on a rugged, day-to-day environment. So sometimes a great deal of intelligence is common sense. And sometimes a great deal of stupidity is lack of common sense, no matter what scientific knowledge you may have. Everybody understand this? And oftentimes common sense can save your life. And common sense can keep you from becoming a victim. In many, many instances, in many environments. Okay? So, with that being said, I don't think that the Muslim should say that he lacks common sense. You're not the smartest, you're not the wisest, I need more, but don't say that you don't have common sense. Because asking a question, trying to get married, trying to practice the deen, that in itself is a good amount of what? Common sense. So perhaps you should read more, study more, travel the earth, make it your duty to go to the different continents, meet different Muslims, meet non-Muslims, read books of history, involve yourself with beneficial things, whether it be literature or whatever it is, and maybe you'll gain more what? Common sense. Bi-idhnillahi ta'ala. As far as asking or saying that your wife should wear the niqab, do you limit your options? I don't know. I've never been to London outside of the airport. Okay? So I don't know. I've never walked the streets of London. I've never been to the masjids in London. I've met many brothers from London. So if you have a good amount of sisters to pick from, then don't compromise. You want your wife to cover her face? Stay with that. But if there are many, many other sisters that don't cover their faces, and they're good sisters, righteous sisters, they're pretty sisters, they come from good family, and perhaps they need some education and some dawah, then maybe you are limiting yourself and limiting your options. Perhaps. Abu Sa'id.
In class the other night, they mentioned the car, you driving to the masjid, you get the same reward as the one who walks to the masjid. You guys brought up
Gave anything decisive. I never gave anything decisive.
some of the scholars say yeah, you get the same reward, and others say no, you don't. It's totally different. How should I take it?
Questions regarding the class the other night pertaining to every footstep that you walk or take to the masjid. 1 foot gives you a hasana, raising your degree, and 1 foot removes from you a sayyah. Does it also apply to the rotation of the tire or not? And you never gave anything decisive. Jazakallahu khairan for the participation and the review. I never promised to give anything decisive. And anyone who sits in our classes and he watches our lectures and videos, he knows this is one of our most basic staple plays in our playbook. It's to bring up an issue, bring up difference of opinion, bring up something hypothetical, and then leave you stuck. Or some, as Brother Samuel said in Toronto, he says, leave you on a cliffhanger. Sometimes we do answer the question. Sometimes we do what? Give you what our view is. But oftentimes, we leave you on a cliffhanger. And that's wisdom, is wisdom in that. Some of the wisdom is, there may be some times in which I don't know myself. Or I'm indecisive. I'm irresolute. I haven't come to a firm decision yet. Or maybe something that's really dangerous. And I may be in a place or in front of people that take my speech and Allahu A'lam, what they'll do with it. Or maybe an issue in which I want you to research and read yourself. Or maybe an issue in which I may want you to keep coming back for more, like you just did. Everybody clear on this? So at the end of the day, I would say that the answer is no and yes. Like we said about the rotation of the tire or the tires. The tires can't come up and down. But the foot can actually what? Go up and down. So which tire gets the hasana? 4 hasanas, 2 hasanas, 2 sayyah? If it's 4 tires. Or maybe you have 3 tires or 2. A motorbike. A bicycle. It doesn't go up off the ground. Or a skateboard. So from one aspect, it doesn't necessarily apply, let alone the fact that it's nothing like actual walking. And Allah Azza wa Jalla, He mentions many verses in the Quran about the foot and the feet and standing. And the symbolicism of one's feet. rather than in symbolicism of one's toes and fingers. Allah says, فَضْرِبُوا فَوْقَ الْأَعْنَاقِ. Allah says, strike them at their necks. وَضْرِبُوا مِنْهُمْ. Allah says, and strike كُلُّ بَنَانٍ, at each of their digits. But understand it's talking about art of war. Allah says, strike them at their necks and strike them where? The digits, the toes and hands. What does that mean? How symbolic is that? Allah talks about Yawm al-Qiyamah, the day of standing. The hadith says, لا تزول قدم ابن آدم. The feet of the son of Adam will not go away until he's asked about 4 things. Feet, standing. Person standing tall. That's a very symbolic concept in itself. How you stand. And not how you ride. Everybody clear on this or not? So, with that being said, the foot is something that's always going to remain an amount of symbolicism like nothing else. Like what? Like nothing else. But from the yes part, or the yes aspect, we have the concept of the meaning of the hadith. Walking to the masjid, traveling to the masjid is ibadah. It's a virtue. And your tire moving, that takes energy, that takes fuel. Similar to the human being walking. So perhaps it's included in it, and perhaps it isn't. At the end of the day, maybe inshallah ta'ala you'll get the best of both worlds. Well, as you drive and you get out your car, once you've parked it, and you have to do what? Walk. So maybe drive from your house, and instead of parking right in front of the masjid, or the masjid parking lot that's close, park a little further away. Give yourself a couple extra minutes. That way, for sure, you're implementing the physical, organic hadith of the actual feet. Clear on that? Alhamdulillah.
Shifa E from Munich, Germany. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Mufti, is it obligatory to return the salam equally or with something better? And is it a sin to return it with something lesser?
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh. Question coming from Munich, Germany. Is it obligatory to return the salams equally? And is a sin not to return them or to return them inadequately? If someone says, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh, he says, Wa alaikum salam, wa alaikum salam. Is there a sin? The answer is that the Quran has clearly commanded us to do that. فَحَيُّوا بِأَحْسَنَ مِنْهَا أَوْ رُدُّوهَا. Allah says, give something which is best, or at least return which is basic. So that is what should be done. If there is proof and evidence that proves and takes away from this Quranic commandment that is only recommended for that, وَاللَّهِ فَالْأَصَلْ عَلَى الْأَصَلْ. So that's what should be done. And Allah knows best. تفضل أخي محمد.
In regards to extracting benefits from a hadith, when do you stop? Because it feels like you can never stop until there's a proof from another hadith or from the Quran that goes against it. But if there's no proof against what's being extracted, how do you know you've gone too far?
So question says, when do you know when to stop with regards to extracting a benefit from the hadith? If it's not supported in another text of the Quran or Sunnah, how do you know you're going too far, etc.? First and foremost is extracting benefits from the hadith is based off of a system. It's based off of a clear system. And it's also not based off of a system. As we always say, emptying your cup, learning the form, but seeking the formless. There are principles and rules. And you can't just jump out the jet and says, oh, it proves this. And no. There's the Arabic language. The Lugha al-Arabiya. There's usul al-fiqh. There is knowledge of the other hadiths, knowledge of the Quran, knowledge of tafsir, formal training that you get from your sheikh and your sheikhs. All of these things are the form. These are the usul, the qawaid, and the dawabit. And tabi, pay close attention. 3 things we mentioned. Usul, qawaid, and dawabit. We're not going to translate them. Hopefully you know what they mean. The viewers know what they mean. The difference between the asl and the qaida. It's the difference. The difference between the dawabit and the asl and the qaida. So there are rules, and those rules are taken from those sources as we just mentioned. The Arabic language in relation to usul al-fiqh. Man ja'a minkum al-jum'ata. He, she, they, those, anyone who comes to Jum'ah, فَلْيَغْتَسِلْ. So we extract from this hadith that making the ghusl for Jum'ah is general for man, woman, and child. warrior, traveler, slave, merchant, sick person. If you go to Jumu'ah, then you have to do what? Wash. Based off of that opinion, stating that it's obligatory, which is the correct view, is that you do have to do it. A woman doesn't have to go to Jumu'ah. A slave, a Muslim slave, doesn't have to go to Jumu'ah. He who's traveling doesn't have to what? Go to Jumu'ah. Someone who's sick doesn't have to go to Jumu'ah. But if you're going to go, then you have to. There's a rule. It's based off of the Lugha al-Arabiyyah. Men. That word, men. And the Lugha al-Arabiyyah connected with Usul al-Fiqh. It proves that it's what? Totally, comprehensively general. That's mine. So that's the form. And then the formless. فَلْيَغْتَسِلْ. He should wash. One may say it's recommended on the day of Jumu'ah to use soap. It's recommended to use shampoo and conditioner. It's recommended to put on this, to put on that. Where are you getting this from? How do you know when to stop? That's not mentioned in any hadith. I never heard no scholar say that. But it's based off of a form, but it's now formless. Because we have the concept of your custom and your culture. And when we say فَلْيَغْتَسِلْ, wash, it doesn't just mean pour water on your body. It means smell good, scrub, look nice, exfoliate your skin, so on and so forth. So there are rules, and then there are what? Aren't rules. So if someone extracts or deduces something from a hadith that no other scholar mentioned, it doesn't mean that it's wrong. It doesn't mean that it's what? Who said it before Ibn Taymiyyah? Ibn Taymiyyah clearly what? He said it. And he stood behind, and then the ulama behind him, they what? They took it and then it became household. There's nothing wrong with that. As long as it's based off of something and someone who's qualified to do it. And deducing something from hadith, it could be correct or it could be incorrect. It could be valid or it could be what? Invalid. How do you know when it's a stretch and it's too much mustard, you put it on a sandwich? The brother, he says, I heard you speak. How did you get 20 benefits from this one hadith? He said, you practicing magic. This brother said right in Queens, New York. So you practicing magic. There's no way you could have got that much from this one hadith. To him, the naked eye, he's untrained. Maybe his imagination isn't strong enough. He doesn't read it, whatever. And to me, it's like what? Clockwork. Or you may have been trained and qualified, and you say, I don't agree with that point, Mufti. I don't agree with that. Not us. And maybe you're right. I may be right. You may be wrong. You may be right. I may be what? I may be wrong. So there are going to be things which are clearly agreed upon. There are going to be things which are strongly leaning towards being right. And then there are things which are going to be a tug of war. I feel that this is good and it's clear, it makes total sense. And you may say, that's a bit much. That's ijtihad. That's what? That's ijtihad. And that's why al-ijma' is the strongest proof. Because the people differ over the interpretation of the Quran. They differ over the interpretation of the hadiths. As Shafi'i says, we extract from it this. And Imam Ahmad may say no. Clear on this? And Allah knows best. From online.
AA from London, UK.
That's in brief, of course.
Assalamu alaikum. 2 questions, please, Sheikh. Your view on niqab, and is this issue different to beer and isbal?
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh. May Allah bless all of the disciples in the United Kingdom. And may Allah Azza wa Jalla gather us and unite us in this life and in the hereafter. What's my position on the niqab? My position is that a woman should wear niqab. She should wear it. She should cover her face. Is it mandatory or obligatory? She should do it. If she has the ability to do it, if she isn't afraid by the peer pressure or the cultural scorning or whatever, her parents, she's from Pakistan. Her parents come from Pakistan. She's British though. She's British. The only thing Pakistani about her is her blood. That's it. But her taste, her culture, her language is British. She learned about the dawah, about ilm, salafiyah in London. And her parents are practicing cultural Islam from Pakistan. She wants to wear it, but her mother says no. Her father says no. Why do you have to cover yourself? You say you look scary. You're scaring people. You think you're better than us. What should she do? If she's not afraid of them, if she can stand up to them, if they're not going to physically harm her, then she should wear the niqab. It's the best thing to do. Whether it's obligatory or not, she should do it. However, if you're going to wear the niqab, also wear gloves. If you're going to wear niqab and gloves, make sure that you behave in a proper manner. Make sure that you behave in the right way. Make sure that you have the niqab on the outside and on the inside. And that you conduct yourself in a way. You don't lift up your niqab and start smoking a cigarette. Which many sisters do, smoking a what? Say a bone. Lie, none of that. A bogey. No bogeys. Everybody understand that? So some sisters, they lift up the niqab and start doing heroin in the train station, plucking the corner of the bag, Habib said. This is a reality. So if you're going to wear niqab, have the good akhlaq. Or you may go to visit somebody in jail. You visit a Muslim, a sister comes with a niqab, obviously she can't go into this niqab, she's cursing in the place. You mother this, you this and you that, you this and you that. Sure have it, yani. What is this? You got to have the good akhlaq, good adab. Everybody understand this? If you're going to wear it, and wear it all of the time. Don't take it off, put it on, take it off, put it on. Be firm. Be serious about it. And don't care about what people say if you believe if what you're doing is the truth. As far as is the niqab like the beard and isbal, then yes and no. Yes it is and no it isn't. And that's because when you study hadith, and you study fiqh al-hadith, and you actually study traditional orthodox fiqh in the different schools, you're always going to find some type of khilaf. And this person and this one, rajahu fulan, mustahsanahu fulan, wastahabahu fulan, wafi wajh, wafi riwayah, is always going to be some type of different. This alim says you don't have to grow a beard. Growing a beard is just recommended. Trimming it, have a 2 o'clock shadow, so on and so forth. You're always going to find that. So from that aspect, the beard, and many aspects of the beard, is similar to the niqab. There's going to be khilaf among the ulama. But how old is that khilaf? Did the salaf differ on the beard? Did the 4 imams differ on the beard? Or the people who came later on? And that's not the same as covering the hands and the face, in which the difference of opinion was what? Old, ancient. It's a difference. So that's the aspect of no. But there's going to be some aspect of yes. Whereas this scholar, this one says you don't have to grow the beard. Or if you grow the beard, it doesn't have to be a full beard. And this many people, they may say this. They say your beard, Saleh, especially you, Khan, say your beard is totally unacceptable. It's too long. And it's a means of showing off. Honestly, you'll find this in books of fiqh. I'm not making this up. Wallahi, don't take this from Muhammad ibn Munir. Read this. They'll say this is riyah. Showing off to have a long beard. The beard should be trimmed. It should be fluffy and bushy, and that's it. It should not exceed this length. And then some may say you don't have to have a bushy woolly beard at all. As long as you have some hair on your face, you've implemented the hadith. And هذا خلاف معتبر. Is this actual respectable khilaf? Did we find this in the early generations? Then later on they start saying this? We spoke about this. The kalam of al-Dhahabi rahimahullah and others from al-Kabat. We did a video on just the beard and shaving the beard. So from one aspect, it's not like the niqab. Whereas there's difference of opinion in the early days among the salaf al-salih, the ulama, about covering the hands and the face. And not the same about the beard. The same applies to al-isbal. But even deeper than that. Many of the ulama, if not most of the ulama, they hold the view that it's permissible to have pants beneath your ankle. It's permissible to have your throat beneath your ankle as long as it's not done out of pride and conceit. As long as it isn't done out of pride and conceit. You'll find this view is well known. And a small minority of ulama hold the view that it's haram, mutlaqan. You can't have your pants beneath your ankle no matter what, unless it's snowing or something like this. You're in the desert, an extreme condition, If you're lying in the bed, you have your pajamas, that's fine, past your ankles. But if you're standing up, and they say if you do it out of conceit and pride, then it's a major, major sin. And if you just do it regularly, then it's also a major sin and it's haram. But you'll find khilaf on this issue. Different views. Me personally, I feel that it's haram to have isbal. Period. You can't have your pants beneath your ankle. Unless it's an extreme condition. But I don't force that upon people. I don't impose that upon people. I don't make that a staple, hallmark piece of my da'wah. Trim the pants, cut the pants, cut the pants, cut the pants. As we've seen some people do. And push people away. This person is barely making salah, yahi. They're barely praying, they barely understand the kalim of Tawheed. He said, cut your pants. What did he say in Connecticut? Do what? He said, no, that same night. Go home and what? Don't trim them, but what? Cut them. What is this? What is this? You go overseas, you visit scholars, mashaykh, ulama, or some of them come to America. And you look at them and you see their toes are beneath their ankles. I remember the first time I saw it. The first scholar that I saw doing, I'm not going to mention the sheikh's name, he's well known in America. I went to his house, his masjid, and I saw his stove was beneath his ankles. I was like, what is this? I was 18 years old, like, what is this? I didn't have bad thoughts of him, but I was shocked. And then later on, you learn, and you grow, and you mature, and you actually read the books. Not Sheikh Fulan said, no, you actually read the kutub. And you find a variety of things. Everybody clear on this? So there are issues in which the ulama agree, And there are issues in which the ulama, they differ. Everybody understand this? They agree in which they what? They differ. Sometimes the niqab is like the beard and it's bad, and sometimes it what? It isn't. At the end of the day, anyone who came to me and asked me for my opinion and help and advice, I would say, do not shave your beard and let it grow full. My daughter, what should I do? My wife, put the niqab and the gloves on your daughter. Can I have my pants beneath my ankles? I would say no, raise them. That's the advice I would give them. And I would support it with the dalil from the sunnah regarding that. But I would not repudiate them and criticize them and look down upon them if they took another view, which is the view of most of the ulama. How can you force someone into something in which most of the ulama say what? The opposite, like we said about taking money, providing service and receiving a financial compensation. Most of the ulama say this. You can't fight in a certain way in which all of the odds are against you. You can fight, but you can't fight in this what? In this manner. Everyone understand that principle? You can fight. This is my position. I believe that this is the strongest view. La bas. Wallahi, la bas. But you can't fight in a certain way. Numerical weakness does not prevent fighting. It doesn't what? It doesn't prevent fighting, but it necessitates a certain what? Strategy of fighting. 1 against 10 can't fight like 5 against 5. That's basic principle of life. 1 against 10 can fight, but not how can what? Evident. 7 and 3, no. So most of the ulama, they hold this view. You can support the opposite. This is my proof. This is who said it. But you can't bash the people into it. Everybody understand the point I'm trying to get to? And this has been done over the last 20, 25 years in America and the UK. And only Allah knows the harm that it has caused. And the potential that there was for the people to accept these things, but it was thrown on them and hurled on them, and they were ran away. And once a person gets a bitter taste in their mouth, what, Harun? Very seldom when they what? Come back to it. And Allah knows best. Tayyib. Omar.
Like they say that like if a scholar's correct, he gets one reward, and if he's incorrect, he gets two. If they say the scholar doesn't have a household name, how can one know if he's going to get that reward?
Well, the question says, they say that if a scholar makes ijtihad, he tries to look for something that's not clearly mentioned in Quran and Sunnah. The process of ijtihad. The systematic process of discovering is something haram, is something obligatory. And it's not specifically mentioned in the Quran and Sunnah. Everybody clear on this? Are cigarettes haram? Cigarettes are not mentioned in the Quran and Sunnah. They're not. Khamr is mentioned in the Kitab and Sunnah. Suicide is mentioned in Kitab and Sunnah, etc. So he uses his mind based off of what I said, the form, the principles. Pay close attention. It's not just reckless. There is a form to it. And then once he's an expert scholar, he can branch off of that form. And he finds and he says, cigarettes are not haram. Cigarettes are only makruh because of this, because of kada, because of kada. Yawm al-Qiyamah, he may be wrong. Another scholar says he's wrong. Allah alam, right or wrong. He may be wrong. If he was wrong, his sin is forgiven because he didn't do it intentionally. And he tried his best. He gave his best to reach a thorough conclusion. And if he was right, then he gets a what? Ajran. Everybody clear on this or not? So how does the layman Muslim know if a scholar isn't a household name, if he's right or wrong? The layman Muslim, you said, how does he know he gets the reward or not? It's not his job to find out what reward he gets. Who, if he's right?
Like what I'm saying to you, like they just say Sheikh, he's known as Sheikh, but the next person
is a student.
Correct.
How can you even make your own ijtihad on an issue? They say you can't even think about it. What do you mean? I believe it's permissible to go to this masjid and masjid Ahlul Bidah. You don't have the ability to what? This is what he said in the comments. He says you don't have the intellect or the qualifications to do that, to even think about it. You must be a blind follower. No matter how many years you've what? Studied overseas. And a scholar, he does what? Has the ability to make ijtihad even if it's clear text. Even if it's what? But he has the ability to do what? Ya'ni, the interpretation, it really means this. This is the reality, guys. This is what? You want sugar on it or without sugar? This is reality. This, to me, if you ask me, is a branch of another issue that's even more perverted and twisted. And that is what makes a person a scholar. Something we spoke about before. Now, what makes a person a scholar? Many of us, whether we say it or not with our tongues, the action, the behavior proves that many of us believe that a scholar is based off of ethnicity. There's no question about that. Our behavior proves that many of us believe this. This nationality or ethnicity, automatic scholar. This nationality or ethnicity, what? Automatic student. Here is hafidhullah and here is wafaqahullah. Akhuna, our brother. And if he's from a place or a country, we say a sheikh. I can mention names. I can give examples of this, but we're not. Those who know it know it. Those who don't know it, it wasn't what? It wasn't meant for them to know it. Also, we have people who think that being a scholar or not is based off of age. One who's of this age, this amount of hair or gray beard, sheikh, he gets hafidhullah, may Allah preserve him. One who doesn't have that color of hair, amount of hair, he gets wafaqahullah, may Allah give him success. Whether we say this with our tongues or what? Or not. Also, there are many of us who say or think that being a scholar is based off of association. Association. If you're in this circle, if you're in this realm, this syndicate, this table, and they deem you and invite you in, then you're a scholar. And those who aren't given this praise, or it's said that Fulan is a scholar, then he isn't a scholar, no matter how much knowledge he has, how many books he's written, how old and how white his beard may be. They say no one said he's a what? A scholar. He has a PhD. Everybody in the dunya, they invite him to this college and they say, a scholar, a scholar, a scholar. And these group of people say, he's not a scholar. This is reality. So the concept of what is and what isn't a scholar, who isn't a scholar, is totally twisted and messed up among most of us. And you can't answer the question properly until you understand what is the definition of a scholar. What makes a person a scholar? Everybody understand this? Let alone the fact, this is the last thing I'll mention to you. For argument's sake, this person isn't a scholar, Fulan is a scholar, no problem. Shaykh ibn Uthaymeen, rahimahullah, I believe whom everybody is going to consider to be a what? A scholar. He himself has explained that a student of knowledge can make ijtihad. Not an alim, but a what? A student of knowledge. Even if he is an absolute mujtahid in everything, but there are certain issues in which he can make ijtihad, and he says, فَيُحَقِّقُ الْمَسْأَلَةِ. He says he himself could verify and thoroughly tackle the whole situation and have his own opinion. And he's not a what? Shaykh ibn Uthaymeen's words. Read the fatwa if you don't believe me. Take it if you can find it. Allah knows we have read this fatwa over 15 years ago. You'll find Ibn Uthaymeen's claim on this. Deeper than that, Shaykh al-Albani rahimahullah ta'ala, whom everybody's going to agree is a what? A scholar. He had several discussions in his home in Jordan, which is well known. The last place in which he lived before he passed away was in Jordan. It's well known that many people from all over the world would come into his house. They would sit on his sofa, they would drink tea, and they would discuss things with the sheikh. And they came out with a whole entire series of recordings called Silsilatul Huda wa Nur. The series of guidance and light. The tapes are well known. Anyone who's been around for a while, been seeking knowledge for a while. He had the actual tapes. I mean, not the MP3, not the YouTube, but the actual what? The tapes, the cassette tapes with the pencil, TDK, stuff in the top of the tapes. Then they digitalized them and they put them on the internet. You can find them on archive.org. Hundreds of tapes in which they asked Shaykh al-Albani about everything, like Amazon, A to Z. When I was in the Prophet City, I bought a series of tapes, I believe it was 2 tapes, of a guy who was claiming to be a prophet. A man who said that he was Nabi. And Shaykh al-Albani actually sat with him, talked with him, and debated with him in 2 full tapes. Anything you can think of is on those tapes, with no order. They can ask about niqab, this, rulers, jihad, takfir, any shaykh. And the shaykh, we would discuss these things. Many scholars who came from Albani's legacy and then he joined those tapes. The scholars of Jordan, whether Salim Hilali, Ali Halabi, so on and so forth. And then many, many others whose name we won't mention right now. Some of them had extensive sessions with Shaykh al-Albani, extensive sessions. And the Shaykh rahimahullah would agree with them and praise them and say he is top notch. But we don't cause no more confusion in mentioning his name right now. What's important is, one tape, one session, they were discussing Bukhari and Muslim. Bukhari and Muslim. And he asked the Shaykh about hadiths in Bukhari and Muslim. The questioner is famous, renowned. Not going to mention his name. He asked the Shaykh about Bukhari and Muslim. And he said, "Ya Shaykh, when we find a narrator from Bukhari and Muslim, a narrator, he's asking about ilm al-hadith. We find a narrator from Bukhari and Muslim, and we don't have this much speech about him, so on and so forth. We automatically declare him to be of a certain level of trustworthiness because all the hadith in Bukhari and Muslim are authentic." Shaykh Albani, he stopped him. He said, "What did you just say?" He says, "Nah, because it's well known that the books of Bukhari and Muslim, consensus, everything." He said, "Whoa, slow down." And then they started fighting, metaphorically speaking. They locked horns immediately on are the hadiths in Bukhari all authentic or not. The books being authentic as a whole, there wasn't a discussion. The discussion was, is every single letter in Bukhari sahih? Is every single hadith in Sahih Muslim sahih? And they started fighting. And other students and other sheikhs, they started joining the whole tape. They were discussing this. And Shaykh Rahimahullah, Shaykh Albani's opinion was, he said, if there's a student of knowledge who's mutamakkin, who's strong, and he researches a hadith or a narrator from Bukhari and Muslim, and based off of the principles of ilm al-hadith, and he declares it to be weak or him to be weak, he says, then that's permissible. And that's an encourageable thing. So one guy, he was going back and forth with Shaykh Albani, and he was reiterating Shaykh Albani's points. And the words that he used was, he says, aliman mutamakkinan. He says, a strong what? Alim, scholar. Shaykh Albani, he immediately stopped him. He said, what? He said, I never what? I never used those words. He says, the words I used was what? Talib ilm. I never said scholar. He said, I never said alim. I said what? Talib ilm, who's strong. He can do that. All right, well, see the point? So Shaykh Albani rahimahullah himself was saying that the student of knowledge can do what? Make ijtihad with one condition, and that condition is what? Strength. And he knows what he's talking about. And he has the ability to prove and establish to go on the offense and on the defense. This is the lid, fulan, kada, called kada, bismillah. Even if no one else said it before him, or no one else pointed it out, or came up with it, what's the problem? So the Shaykh rahimahullah, towards the end of the session, he said, I pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and yakuna asharat bal mi'at. He says, I pray to Allah there will be tens and rather hundreds of students of knowledge that will do this, that will criticize and not be sufficient or complacent with taqleed. And this person and this sheikh, whoever it is, Bukhari, Muslim, is Albani right in that? That's not the discussion. We're trying to prove a point here. Is that Albani's legacy was people to think and use their brains, use their minds, scholar or student knowledge. And the people today, they quote Shaykh Albani, Albani said Albani. And you say anything about Shaykh Albani, they will attack you. Astaghfirullah. You can't say that Albani was wrong. You can't say Albani is mutasahil. You can't say his tahseen, his tasheeh. You can't say that. You can't say that. The legacy of Albani, they're going in the opposite direction. Albani's legacy was for the student to be what? Critical. No shackles upon him whatsoever. Principles, that's it. And the people today, it's the exact opposite. The taqleed, the personality worship, and the hero worship that is done in the name of scholars and Salafiyah and Dawah Salafiyah is totally appalling. Totally appalling. And one of the reasons why it's become so popular and such a household common thing is because we don't read and we don't listen. But let's go back to the actual words of Shaykh Al-Albani. Let's go back to the words of this scholar. Let's actually listen to what he said and his legacy. And anyone with a nose, not someone who smelt, but with a nose, he knows that Albani's legacy was made off of criticizing and refuting. And no one was spared from what he thought was the truth, even if he was mistaken. Everybody understand this? So that's total hogwash. You can't make ijtihad unless you're of this certain, not evident. As long as you're qualified to do it. No matter how old you are, what country you come from, or what you look like, and who the people you're associated with. La, it's incorrect. And Allah knows best. And like I said, brothers and sisters, don't take it from me. Please go back to the what? The tapes and the books, and you'll what? You'll find it. If you can research it, you'll find it. And Allah knows best. I believe it's time to stop here. Allah Azza wa Jalla surely and certainly knows best. وصلى الله وسلم وبارك على عبده ورسوله نبينا محمد. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.